I thought cuckolded was your wife is cheating on you while you're in the same room.
No.
Isn't that the same thing?
Go read some Shakespeare. You've just got your definition of cuckold from porn, Raj.
From Brazzers.com.
Yeah, a cuckold is just anybody who's cheated on.
Remember when we first met John McClane? Argyle picked him up from the plane and took him down the Nakatomi Tower at the Christmas party. And the terrorists were overzealous, but it was sweet when they killed Ellis. And with a little help from Alan, John McClane...
Welcome back to Shat the Movies, the podcast where we answer the question, were the movies we love when growing up really that good? Have you ever caught yourself thinking, why don't they make movies like they used to? Can you still remember spending your Friday night searching for the perfect movie rental at Blockbuster Video? Do you even remember what Blockbuster Video was? Have you answered yes, and this is the podcast for you? I am one of your 3 co-hosts, Roger Roper, and alongside me are my 2 co-hosts, Big D, Dick Ebert.
I don't know if this is a good evening.
And Gene Lyons.
Don't call me a peck.
And each week, we take a look back in time and decide if our favorite films from our childhood still hold up. Each week, the audience selects from 4 movie choices that we then break out our VHS race car tape rewinders and watch the movie that tallied the highest number of votes. We appreciate you guys listening. At the end of each podcast, the 3 of us will provide you, the audience, with the number of wipes each movie would take to get off your respective butts. So if you haven't done already, please subscribe. This week's movie, Big D, the choices from the 80s and 90s were all Val Kilmer movies. Is that correct?
That's correct. And you figure you had a good library of Val Kilmer movies to pick from.
Yeah.
So we had Willow from 88, Top Gun, which I don't know how the hell we haven't done that yet. Real Genius and Heat. Gene had been pushing for Willow since the day we brought him on, since he cut his teeth in the review game. And I don't know if I should be more mad at him, George Lucas, Val Kilmer. I don't know who to be mad at.
I want to take responsibility for this one. I'd never seen Willow. I thought this was going to be the golden moment to watch it with my friends and have a good time talking about all the magic done by Warwick Davis and the swordsmanship by Val Kilmer and just taking on this rip-rollicking, swashbuckling ride. You got all the elements you would want. Sorcery, babies, skull masks, and it went horribly, horribly wrong. I would have watched any of the other 3 options 100 times before watching Willow. Oof.
Yeah, I think what upsets me more is not only were you petitioning for this movie, but you had never seen it. You were petitioning blindly for a movie, especially against the likes of Top Gun, Real Genius, and Heat. And I feel like our audience really respects you, Gene. And they were like, well, listen, we're going to give Gene what he wants.
No, that's not true, because if that were the case, we would not be watching GoldenEye next week, because that is like one of my least favorite Bond movies. But here's the thing, is if we're all going out to dinner and you and Big D were like, hey, there's all these restaurants to go to,
Yeah.
I would want to go to the cuisine that I'd never tried before.
Benihana's, that's where you'd want to go. You'd want to go to Benihana's.
Yeah, but instead we went to what I don't even know. I can't think of a food this bad.
So Willow is a 1988 high fantasy film directed by Ron Howard, produced and with a story by George Lucas. It stars Warwick Davis, Val Kilmer, Joanne Whalley, Gene Marsh, and Billy Barty. Warwick Davis plays the eponymous lead character and hero, a reluctant farmer who plays a critical role in protecting a special baby from a tyrannical queen who vows to destroy her and take over the world. Now, if this sounds like it's fun, if this sounds like it's a swashbuckling, rip-roaring sci-fi fantasy movie in the same realm of Game of Thrones and Lord of the Rings, you would be sadly mistaken. But where were you when you first saw this movie?
I got to think that somewhere along the lines I got roofied, okay? I've had movies before that I'm disappointed when I see them, and I'm like, yeah, it didn't hold up. This movie, I know I've seen it before, because as each set piece would come up, I would kind of know where it was going, and I would remember it. It's like you wake up the next day after a long night of blackout drinking, and you can kind of remember that you lost your keys and that you did something real stupid. You may have gotten into a fight, and you start putting the pieces together. But for me, what I got at the end here, this one hurt me. I feel victimized.
Yeah, I think I remember seeing this movie in the theaters with my parents. I clearly remember, actually, seeing it with my parents. I was around 8 years old, and for some reason, I just loved this movie. I thought this movie was the greatest movie since Empire Strikes Back. not Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi. I was not old enough to really fully understand and comprehend the greatness that was Empire of the Strike Backs when I was 8 years old. I still loved Ewoks, which is probably why I love this movie, because it's basically Return of the Jedi, but the Ewok, they didn't have costumes for the little people. They just had them act.
I think the reason why I was so excited about seeing this movie was that I think I saw it on a lot of like thermoses and lunchboxes when I was a kid. And if you think about it, this movie is great for like thermoses and lunchboxes because the characters are all easy to draw, easily identifiable, and you probably didn't have to pay much because the movie was such a piece of shit that the rights were probably cheap.
But I'm convinced, and this may be my first video project that I take up. I really think that if you edited this movie down, it's got the bones of a really, really good movie. If you cut out some scenes and we cut out some characters like the Brownies, the Jar Jar Binks of this damn movie, you change the music that sometimes borders on comical, we could really have something. Plus, cut out the 35 minutes of baby cooing, smiling, giggling, and we might have something. So I think I might, on some of our downtime, take this project under my wing.
Yeah, just make a Demon Dogs music video, and that'd be fine.
Yeah, no, you're a parent, Big D. Is Teletubbies, is that still a thing?
I don't think so. She loves Elmo.
Okay.
And I've gotten her into Fraggle Rock.
Okay, so but you did recall a television show called The Teletubbies, correct?
I'm familiar with it, never watched it.
You never watched it? Okay, well, on the Gene, did you ever watch the Teletubbies?
On drugs, but not normally.
Yeah, but like you've at least witnessed it, right? I felt like how in the Teletubbies would do something crazy, and then they would do a close up shot of baby's face doing like wacky. I think it was like in the sun. It was like
the baby's face was in the sun. Yeah.
Right. I felt like that's what this movie kept doing. It kept doing like a Teletubbies close up of the baby's face, cooing and smiling. I didn't need that in my Willow featurette. I was appalled by it.
I mean, the baby was arguably the most talented actor in this movie, though. So let's give some credit where credit is due.
Oh, that baby had range, without a doubt. That baby had range.
How dare you? Warwick Davis was acting his ass off here.
I counted 7 different faces that baby could make. 7. That's a lot for a baby.
In the first 10 minutes.
Yeah, anytime I see a child that young give a terrified face, it makes me wonder what they're doing on set to make the baby get that startled.
How many hours is that baby working in a given day?
If listeners at home, if you've never seen the MGMT video for, was it Kids, I think is the name of the song? The original one, they are just scaring the shit out of bababies for like 3 minutes.
It's really
it's wonderful.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Well, with that being said, Big D, play the trailer.
From the creator of Star Wars, from the director of Cocoon, a world is awakening.
Why, with the strength of my great army, can you not find one little child?
It's a dangerous world. That's why we need your help.
Your journey has just begun.
Willow. Heroes come in all sizes. But adventure doesn't come any bigger than this.
Find the child. Find the child.
We are not afraid of you.
The next great adventure.
You are great.
Willow. Coming in May.
All right. It is olden times, probably set in the future a long, long time ago, where a prophecy states that a female child with a special birthmark will herald the downfall of the evil sorceress Queen Bavmorda. Bavmorda imprisons all pregnant women to prevent fulfillment of the prophecy. When the prophesied child, Laura Downen, is born, the mother begs the midwife to hide the infant and smuggle her to safety. The midwife reluctantly accepts and leaves Nockmar Castle unnoticed. The mother is executed, the midwife is hunted down and eventually found and killed. Knowing she cannot escape, she sets the baby on a makeshift raft of grass and sends her down the river hoping for her fate to run its course. While the midwife is killed by Nockmar hounds, Bavmorda, furious about the escape, summons her daughter Sorsha and her army's commander General Kyle to find the baby.
Again, I really wanted to like this movie, and I came into it really trying to find the silver lining. But right out the chute, they just got to slap me in the face. This is possibly the cheesiest villain that we've seen in the 27 movies that we've done. She looks like a character actor in the Magic Kingdom playing Queen Grimhilda from Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. Not even the real one, but like kind of like a knockoff character actor.
She looks like a New York Times Maleficent, like just out there begging for tips for pictures.
I mean, I'll take it a step further. This is the cheesiest band of villains, really, because General Kale looks like his skull mask, and then when he pulls it off, I mean, none of it, you can't take any of it seriously. And her daughter Sorsha also just does not look in any way menacing.
Yeah, General Kyle's skull, I remember being scared to death of that thing as a child, but then he just takes it off now as an adult. I'm like, it's just like a normal dude. He kind of looks like my dad.
How the hell does Mattel not sue? That is Skeletor. It's not even close.
Is it Skeletor?
Yes, it's Skeletor. I mean, you could say like Game of Thrones later on, I'll talk about has Lord of Bones.
Okay.
And, he wears a skull mask. But this is straight up Skeletor. Just turn that skull blue and you've got a spitting image. But I got to tell you were talking about what's terrifying. Mm-hmm. Those demon dogs, that terrify Willow's village. They're more like a boar, large like rat. They got like a big fat tail. They're frightening as shit. Those were actual practical effects. Those were Rottweilers that they just stuck like a furry kind of saddle on them and just let them run around the set. Do you see any possible way that PETA lets that shit happen today?
I mean, yeah, if the dogs aren't hurt, I think it's fine. Yeah. And this was so much more effective than you think of the rodents of unusual size in Princess Bride. Yes. Like, they look cheesy as shit. These things, I remember watching it going, God, they got the locomotion down really well. I'm like, this isn't stop motion. It's not CGI. And I was like, holy shit, it's an actual animal in there.
Those were the scariest things about the movie were the demon dogs, right? Like, they didn't hold back. Like, they wanted to go and eat the little people, and they definitely killed the midwife, like, right out the gate.
Yeah, it was a toss-up between them and Willow's wife's teeth. Those are the two scariest things about this movie.
Let's go a little bit further. So Queen Bavmorda's plan is to imprison all the pregnant women in her dungeon and then let them give birth. And then how does she identify which is the chosen child and what isn't?
So I think this is like Immortan Joe's Baby Factory from Fury Road.
Right.
She's trapped maybe all the women of childbearing age, and whenever they're going to go into labor, she watches the baby come out, and they're looking for that tattoo on the arm that will identify that this is the chosen one.
Okay, so it's not killing all the baby girls, because essentially she's wiping out she's basically China right now, where they are just wiping out all the baby girls because they've got a one-child policy here.
Well, they would also be wiping them out if they, were part of the prophecy to overthrow the communist government. But this whole plan that they've got.
So it's Tibet. It's
yes.
The Dalai Lama.
It's the golden child.
Right.
Want the knife? Okay. So part of the problem here is the midwife.
Yes.
Number one, how the fuck does she get this baby out of the castle? Wouldn't you figure there's guards who are like, we got a baby coming out, might be the one. Let's try to keep an eye on it. But she's going to smuggle it through safety. She's going to carry this newborn, through some Arctic landscape in a blanket and a basket. Okay. But to me, this doorstop baby trope that you see all the time, whether you're leaving a basket at the firehouse or, when a baby can't be taken care of, they're going to leave them there. There is no way. As a father of a 1.5-year-old, she struggled to stay alive in 70-degree weather. I could not take her through an Arctic trek and expect that baby to stay happy and alive. Was her goal to kill the baby or to get it to safety?
I mean, she clearly wanted to save the baby. The intentions are good. Execution, maybe not so much. But the whole thing, I mean, again, is completely implausible. And the fact that the entire point of imprisoning all these people is to avoid this baby escaping your clutches, and yet you make it that easy? Come on.
Well, I just don't understand, how far she travels. My assumption is there's a giant mountain in front of the castle. She escapes the castle, then has to go over the mountain. Right now, this is how is she caring for the baby? How is she feeding the baby? And how the queen before the midwife is even like 20 steps outside the castle, realizes the baby is gone, and sends out the dogs. I don't understand what took the dogs so fucking long to catch up to her.
Maybe this is like that tiny planet in the season 2 Rick and Morty finale.
Aha.
You know, where you can just walk, you know, from one hemisphere to the other. But yeah, that doesn't make sense. The dogs, you figure, would have caught her.
Yeah.
But she takes this brave trek. Guarantee once she hit the river, that baby would have been a popsicle anyway. So,
Well, how long do you think she travels? Because that baby does some crazy aging. It is bald when it begins, and then has a tuft of red hair, like a full head of red hair by the end when it's traveling down the river.
well, you have to leave enough time for the baby to have acting lessons.
That's right. Well, the baby drifts downriver to a village of Nulwyn, also known as dwarves, when she comes into the care of Willow Ufgood, a kind farmer and conjurer who hopes to become a real sorcerer. His wife Kaya and children soon fall in love with the baby, and Willow too soon grows to love her as one of his own. During a town festival, the village is attacked by a Nockmar hound, which is quickly killed by the village warriors. The High Aldwin, the village sorcerer, learns about the baby and selects Willow, due to his devotion to the child, to accompany a party of volunteers returning the baby to the Dakini, or man people. At a crossroads, they find a human warrior named Madmartigan trapped in a crow's cage. The rest of the party want to give the baby to Madmartigan and go home immediately, but Willow and his friend Migosh refuse, so the others leave. After spending a night at the crossroads and meeting an army led by Ike Thalgbauer, an old friend of Madmartigan's, marching against Bavmorda, Willow reluctantly decides to free Madmartigan so he can take care of the baby for them.
So I don't want to upset anyone. Is the correct term small people?
Little people.
Okay.
Little people, big world.
Okay. First off, the movie was originally titled Munchkins.
Was it?
Jesus.
Yes. Which is inappropriate to begin with. So
That's like the Hobbit. It's like the Hobbit, right?
No. The Hobbit. Munchkins is like a cutesy, like, oh, it's a munchkin. The Hobbit, at least, was, seemed like,
What are the Munchkins like again?
giggle.
So yeah, a hobbit is a halfling. It's an entirely different species, and it's not just that they're small. They're basically proportionate people to what a halfling would be, right? So in the sense that they're not like they have furry feet that are gigantic. They're very distinct facial. Their features are very distinct. This is literally just let's get a bunch of little people together, and that is what they are.
I feel like George Lucas fights for social justice. Right, like he employed a lot of little people as Ewoks, and I felt like he wanted to do that again with Willow.
yeah, well, this was the largest casting call for little people. You know, Lucas had previously cast several little people for key roles in Return of the Jedi. You have the famous Wizard of Oz, they had 100 little people, but this one, they put out a casting call for 225 to 240 actors, little people that they hired. And for me, I got to be honest with you, I don't want to knock the little people acting community. It has nothing to do with their stature. But this cast of little people, I thought was amateurish. It was like a community playhouse version of, a fantasy film. The only one, regardless of what her teeth looked like, I thought Willow's wife, she was killing it. I liked her.
Yeah, honestly, the children were at times better actors than the adults among the, what are they called again? I forget. The Nelwyn.
The Nelwyn. But you know what? I think Warwick Davis does a fine job here. Big D, you and I were talking about this before. You didn't like some of the choices that he made as an actor, though.
You're fucking high. Okay, he has one move. You remember they used to have the action figure, if you squeeze the legs together, the arms would go up? That was Willow's move. If Willow was going to be flabbergasted, arms up. If he was angry, swing his arms up. If he was scared, that was his one move. He was he was one of the worst parts in it.
Yeah, I mean, if you want for comparison, look at Billy Barty as the High Aldwin. He was actually like charming. Like you believed it. Like he would, when he would do some magic or something like that, you were you're enthralled, in his grasp there. So when he did the little finger thing, you're watching that, or when he turns, he casts the bird spell or whatever. Those sorts of things, like you could see that that's what a real actor looks like, and then you look at what Warwick Davis was doing, not the same thing.
Okay, but let me ask you this. So Willow's boss, is that a boss, or is that like a village elder, or like the mayor of the town? Who's the bald, tall little person? I don't know that character's name.
Oh, they said his name like a million
Yeah,
times, like Buckle Cut or some.
Yeah, so Bucklecut comes over, and he's like, listen, I'm going to take your land, and you're going to go to the mines. I feel like there's probably some racism going on in this realm where they're making all the little people like farm the mines or work down in the mines because they're little and they can go into like the caves. Have you guys ever seen any documentaries of little people? HBO had a very good one where they would follow people to these little people conventions. This is before the reality TV shows were like on AMC. So what I learned from the documentary to this day is that there is a hierarchy of little people. The taller little people you are, the more like admirable you are to the opposite sex. So like, even though they're all little people, the tall ones are just jerks to everyone else. And I feel like that was what are we calling him? What is the guy's name? The bald one?
Bucklecut.
Yeah, I feel like that's why Bucklecut was such a dick, right? Because he was taller than all the other little people, but he was like bald or whatever. He was just a prick. He walked with a cane. What is he going to do with Willow's farmland?
He was deplorable, man. What the fuck was his name?
Bucklecut. We're going to call him Bucklecut. Yeah.
They said, well, Madmartigan says his name like 8,000 times in one scene. I can't believe I didn't remember it. Because I remember going, yeah, we get it. We get what his name is. And apparently we
the other thing I don't get is that this is
Burglecut.
Burglecut. Well, that's
close. I was close
enough. Well, let me ask you this. So this is a world where real sorcery and magic exists, correct?
Sure.
Why during the village party or whatever they're having, is he just doing like shitty illusions with pigs and sticks? What's going on there?
Look, even, I don't want to spoil the movie, but even another certain sorcerer was astonished by the disappearing trick. We live in a world right now where we have smartphones and you can use remote controls and you can control your house from a computer. And that all seems like magic, right? But everyone still likes a little sleight of hand, a little illusion. It's exciting.
For God's sake, he turned a rock into a bird. Making a pig disappear is nothing, or sticking a flaming stick through your arm, that's nothing. For God's sake, we see people turned into animals later in the movie.
Yeah.
This is some amateur stuff. And it's supposed to show us, obviously, that Warwick is a hack. He's a joke. He's the buffoon. He's the jester of the village.
So, speaking of animals, though, one thing I do think the movie did really well is they were creative with the Nelwyn village. They were creative with the implements that they were using. I thought it was pretty cool that they were using pigs as beasts of burden, like basically as oxen, that they had like little baskets that they were using as full-size carts. That made a lot of sense to me. Again, you're trying to recreate essentially a Hobbit village, but you're doing it with 80s technology where you don't have the ability to really shift the perspective as much and use as much digital rendering. So, kudos to them on that. At least some of the villages and scenery were really well realized.
Raj had mentioned, the hierarchy of little people by height. I kind of got the vibe throughout the town that they were, it bordered on making me uncomfortable. When we first see the town, everyone's joking and jumping around and the music, and it's almost like they're little toys. They're falling in the mud, they're giggling, they're kissing. It was very much like it's what is it?
The final scene of the Return of the Jedi in the Ewoks Treehouse Village.
It is.
Jub.
It's goofy. It's playful. They don't seem like intelligent being, and I don't think they're treating little people in these scenes with respect.
I might disagree on that, because imagine this same scene if it were just, I guess what you would call average-sized people.
If it was Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves.
Exactly. Like, if you just had a village of average-sized people doing the same thing, would you still find it? I mean, it's basically the same thing. It's a really hammy way of showing this village is having, these are the good times. These are the salad days, as Nicolas Cage would say.
Yeah, I don't think I would see a regular-sized village going in there. They're having a tug-of-war, and they're giggling as they fall in the mud, and the band.
You have seen Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, correct?
Not in years.
It's this exact scene, only regular-sized people.
Listen up, listeners. I'd really like you to vote for Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, because Big D's never seen it, and we need to watch it.
God, okay. So you were talking about how this is similar to Robin Hood. And before I'd mentioned, whether it was General Kale and Skeletor or Sorsha is obviously the inspiration for Miranda and Disney's Brave. I mean, down to the bow and arrow, that was spot on. with the red hair, and I've always had a thing for redheads, so I enjoyed that.
Yeah, Saoirse was hot, right?
100%. But rewatching this now, the first thing that I noticed was, how transparent it was that Lucas was attempting to ape the whole Star Wars formula. Madmartigan is clearly supposed to be like that devilish rogue Han Solo. Then you have Willow, who's that slightly too whiny, good standing young guy who's like Luke Skywalker. Then you got the rough and tumble female lead, Saoirse. It's obviously Princess Leia.
Who's obviously Willow's sister.
Possibly. And then you have just all the little, tertiary characters. You have the comic relief sidekicks, the two brownies. What was it? Fangine and Roll, or whatever the hell their names were. And, they're constantly bickering, playing. They're R2-D2 and 3CPO. You have the sorcerers that are the Jedi and the magic, the Force. It was just so obvious. The evil fascist guy at the end. You have Remorda's Darth Vader. He had not an original bone in his body. He had hoped that this was going to be the beginning of another trilogy. All it did to me was bring back pains of the original trilogy. He just rehashes everything over and over and over again.
I guess the thing that really bothered me the most, outside of ripping off Star Wars and Lord of the Rings, is the fact that they keep calling Willow a peck. Now, a peck is like a racist derogatory term, right? Like, it's the equivalent of calling someone a midget, correct?
You were the only one here who's watched documentaries on little people on HBO
right.
Before it was cool.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like, that is not a normal term. That doesn't exist in our culture. But in this culture, they are just calling this guy, like, the N-word right to his face.
Yeah, I don't know if I took it that way. I think peck might have been like what the the Daikini call the Nelwyn. Like, I don't know if it was. It's definitely not.
Of course, it's what they call them.
Naturally, but it's not. I think it was probably meant like it's definitely a jab. I don't know if it was like severe as that.
But you were super excited about seeing this movie because of one character, and that's Madmartigan, played by Val Kilmer, who is wearing approximately the same wig as Christopher Lambert in Highlander.
No, man, this wig is far more fabulous. Like, his hair, Val Kilmer's hair in this movie is glorious. He looks great in this movie. I was kind of actually surprised because in the first scene when he's in the crow's cage, he looks pretty shitty. And I was like, wait, that's Val Kilmer? And then once he cleaned up, I was like, yeah, that's Val Kilmer. He looked great.
Well, later on, the baby is stolen by a group of brownies. While chasing them, Willow and Migosh are trapped, but rescued by Cheerlindra, a fairy queen who identifies the baby as Alora Downen, the future princess of Tur Asleen and Bavmorda's Bane, and thereby assigns Willow the task of helping the baby fulfill her destiny. Willow sends Migosh home, and two of the brownies, Phagine and Rule, are instructed to guide Willow to the sorceress Fin Raziel. So the three of them later encounter Madmartigan at a tavern where he's disguised as a woman to hide from Lug, a cuckolded husband. I did not get that whatsoever. Who then flirts with a disguised Madmartigan. Saoirse arrives and reveals his identity, and in the ensuing brawl started by the furious Lug, upon the realization that Madmartigan is not a woman, Willow, Madmartigan, and the brownies escape. Madmartigan guides them to a lake where Raziel lives, but departs again as they cross it.
So, in a land without the internet or GPS or phones to call each other, I'm just fascinated that bad guys can catch the baby or find the baby so often. And then once they do finally find the baby in this tavern, it's not the only baby in the tavern, which is making me wonder, why are so many people in this bar with their babies?
Well, that's probably where the babies were made. It seemed like there was a lot of women of ill repute there. So you got to take the baby to work. You can't leave them anywhere else.
I want to go back to this cuckolded husband. Did you guys get that? I did not get that whatsoever.
Yeah, so that's why she was dressing up Madmartigan, because he just boned her.
Yeah.
What?
And her husband was coming home.
Yes,
Yeah.
the husband. You can hear the husband outside in the bar screaming, "I'm going to kill him. I'm going to catch him."
I thought I have a different definition of cuckold than someone discovering that your wife has cheated on you. I thought cuckolded was your wife is cheating on you while you're in the same room.
No.
Isn't that the same thing?
Go read some Shakespeare. You've just got your definition of cuckold from porn, Raj.
From Brazzers.com.
Yeah, a cuckold is just anybody who's cheated on by their wife.
Is that what it is?
Yes, you've made a cuckold of me.
Are you telling me I have been cuckolded before?
Have you been married?
No, I haven't been married.
Well, then I think you're fine.
Right.
So moving back to the bar, though, these henchmen, I was astonished that they are the world's most forgiving henchmen. So I don't know why they even bother carrying swords. So their leader, Sorsha, is shoved, and then the cuckolded lug goes up and punches one of them. There's a brawl breaking out. Willow trips one of them. None of them use a sword. Nobody gets stabbed in this scene. Everybody's fine. Come on.
I think that was so they could sell more thermoses and lunchboxes, right? Because I think this was like a G movie. Outside of the Devil Dog, there was no blood, very little use of swords or arrows.
Wait. They use swords. You see people get stabbed, but zero blood. As soon as you kind of get the tip near them, it cuts away. They pour the hot oil on top of an entire group trying to storm, Helm's Deep towards the end. Nobody. You don't see any blistering. Everything is PG, so it's understandable that Sorshan are men. They have a level of restraint. That's the world they live in.
Can we go back to how hot Sorsha is?
Oh my God.
You guys thought the exact same thing as I did, right? Like Sorsha is super ridiculously hot in this movie, right?
Yeah, I thought she was beautiful. I thought it would have been a cooler effect if they had kept her kind of masked until Madmartigan approaches her in her tent. How cool would that have been? How you had no idea that she was like what she looked like, and then finally sees her and she's this total babe.
Yeah, coming from somebody who I'm part ginger. When the summer comes, I get a little red in my beard. So this is not, a slander against my fellow ginge.
You're not ginger. You're just Nordic. Everyone has a red beard.
But I got to tell you, a redhead like Sorsha is like the unicorn. They're very rare. Your friends always tell you about them. But when you find one, something special about that. But I lost my virginity to a redhead. They also have a propensity to go absolutely apeshit crazy.
What? Well, how did your wait a minute? So hold on.
No,
I didn't know this about you. How long have we been friends? You didn't tell me you lost your virginity to a redhead?
Yeah, I actually lost my virginity watching.
What was her name? Name her.
Her name was Catherine.
Catherine. What's her last
I'm
name?
not going to give you that. It was in.
Where does she live?
Probably Long Island still, but.
Okay.
It was my freshman year in college, and she invited me over to. She lived at home. She commuted to her dad's house, and she had rented Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. And Jurassic Park.
How old was she?
I was a late bloomer. Okay, so this was my freshman year in college.
Freshman year of college, and how old was this beauty?
I think she was probably about the same age, probably 18, 19.
Okay, so she was okay. All right.
Yes.
So she invites you over for some chocolate and dinosaurs.
Yes, and I lost my virginity with Willy Wonka in the background.
How soon into the movie before things got heated?
I really wasn't paying attention to the movie much. I think it was.
How many kids had died? How many kids had died?
I think it was around Veruca Salt, but at that point the movie just faded out.
That's.
And then, it was a good night.
Why did she go batshit crazy? Why did she go batshit crazy?
I just think they do. The few redheads that I've had relationships with.
You've had a few, humble brag, right?
Well, it's not like there's lots of redheads. It's not like there's 2 or 3 per county.
Gene, how many redheads have you had relations with?
Like natural?
Yeah, natural.
Oh, God, I have a real bad memory on these things.
Okay.
I don't remember what color hair they have.
I've had relations with exactly one. We both worked at Universal Studios. We were both stilt walkers, and on the final cast wrap party of the Halloween Horror Nights, we got a hotel room at Hard Rock Hotel, and we did it.
Clearly, this is the cast of real romantics on this show. I actually, when I was studying in the UK, I was not intimate with this woman, but there was Sarah Ellis, and she was a very tall redhead, and we were in Scotland, which was kind of cool, but she was American, and we sat in the windowsill and watched the rain and listened to Cat Stevens, and it was very nice. But I think that's the closest I've ever come, guys.
Did were you hit with the love potion? Were you hit with the love? The love salt and sugar?
The pixie dust?
The pixie
no.
dust.
No. I had a girlfriend at the time, so I couldn't. Yeah.
So you cuckolded her.
No. Nothing happened. It was a nice. I'm saying that's the closest. I'm saying that's the closest I've ever come to having a romance with an actual redhead. I think.
Yeah. So the brownies are French fairies, right? So
moving right along.
Yeah. So
it seemed that they were trying.
I'm going to break your nose.
I honestly think that they were just trying to go for something exotic, and that's what they came up with.
But I don't get the brownies. So they're small, little, normal-sized humans. It doesn't make any sense.
It makes absolutely no sense. The only reason you bring the brownies in is to move the plot along, so you can kind of get them from point A to point B. It's a quintessential MacGuffin. But they were annoying. It was almost like technology advanced to the point where they thought they could do some green screen and superimpose these little people. So they said, hey, great, let's do it. And didn't think, should they stop and actually question whether they should actually do it?
I think the brownies are single-handedly the reason for 3 Night at the Museum movies and Owen Wilson's characters, where they kept adding small little people to the equation, and it was freaking terrible. I blamed the brownies for that movie trilogy.
Yeah, speaking of terrible, I want to talk about the transitions in this movie. You know, a movie is having a hard time patching the story together when they don't know how to get from one scene to the next. There are ways to blend shots, cut shots, or just have logical progressions from one scene to the next. Literally in film school, you can learn dozens of these techniques. What you don't want to do is these weird PowerPoint transition screens. And I felt like I was watching a PowerPoint. There was the sweep, there was the flip, there was the flash. Like,
was there the spiral? There was the spiral too.
I did not see. There might have been a spiral. I'm not sure. I blacked out a few times, but essentially, again, there's no excuse in an era when you have superior movies. I mean, again, think about it. This movie was released roughly around the same time as Who Framed Roger Rabbit, and they're having trouble with transitions between scenes. That is embarrassing.
Yeah, you think with a Lucas, it would just be all wipes, just all nothing but wipes.
Well, hey, but you said that. They actually use that Star Wars diagonal blurry wipe multiple times. I kept expecting it to cut into Tatooine, and you see the land speeder going by to Old Ben's.
we gotta get to the moisture evaporators and get some new protocol droids. So Raziel has been transformed into a possum by Bavmorda, and Willow and his party return to her shore. They are captured by Sorsha, who has already captured Madmartigan, and they are taken to a snowbound mountain camp of the Nockmaar army. Willow tries to restore Raziel, but turns her into a rook instead. Madmartigan is dosed with love dust by the brownies and declares his undying love for Sorsha. The prisoners escape and reach a village at the foot of the mountain, where they again encounter Erk and remains of his army, recently defeated by Bavmorda's forces. Madmartigan proclaims his loyalty to Newlman and promises to protect Willow and Alora.
I got to tell you, we're doing Game of Thrones, which I'm excited about, in July. All I could picture here was, this was Lord of Bones, Rattle Shirt, setting up camp at the Fist of the First Man, if Game of Thrones was done by AMC. That's what this was. We had Jon Snow and Ygritte making googly eyes, and to cap it all off for my CW or TBS version of Game of Thrones, Willow turns Raziel into a raven.
The scene with when Willow first even encounters Raziel and takes her to shore, and you've got, I label this the shittiest scene in film. So think about, I just stopped and said, what the hell is going on with my life? I'm watching Warwick Davis holding a baby in these unexplained ruins. You have no reason why there's these ruins on this shore. He's talking to an opossum that has this shrill old woman's voiceover, and then they are being watched by these superimposed brownies who are giving running commentary on the whole thing. It was like an MST3K thing. I'm like, what the fuck is happening here? At this point, I no matter what happened through the rest of the movie, I was already turned off to a point where I could not come back.
Okay, now there was a lot of parts in the movie where I just completely checked out and was on Facebook and Instagram. I think I did dishes. I was trying to I think I cut my nails. I dusted my shelves. I was trying to do everything to take my mind off of this movie. For some reason, I remember as a kid, Madmartigan wanting to turn the sorceress, Raziel, back into a woman because she said that she was a very beautiful woman. Did that actually happen in this movie? Is that what happens?
Yes, there's a scene where he says, what do you look like? And she says, I'm a beautiful young woman. And he's like, hurry up, concentrate.
Okay, all right, got it. Okay, so I completely missed that. Okay, so that is a part of the movie that actually happens. Okay, all right, so basically this guy's a rapist is what we're supposed to learn.
Well, I mean, I dubbed his entire love for Sorsha as a crime against romance. He declares, the moment that he declared in this movie that he hated her, again, because it's a shitty, cheesy movie, that he's going to end up falling for her, right? The foreshadowing was obvious. So he does fall for her, but it's because of a love potion. Again, one of the cheesiest tools you can use in writing. Then he creeps into her room, and then she awakens and fights back. And I go, oh, thank God we have this strong woman character who's going to say, no, that's not how this works. You're on love potion. You're creeping into my room like you're a prisoner. Get the hell out of here. But what happens? She falls for him. Complete disappointment in this movie.
Well, if it's one thing George Lucas knows, it is romance in films. He knows how to set up scenes. He knows how to tie it all together, and he knows how to write just lovely Shakespearean language so that the characters can proclaim their love. I wrote down this quote, and I'm going to add it to my Tinder and Bumble profiles. He says, "You are my sun, my moon, my starlit sky. Without you, I dwell in darkness. I love you. Your power has enchanted me. I stand helpless against it. Come to me now. Tonight, let me worship you in my arms. I love you." Compare that absolute Academy Award-winning line to what he did in the prequels in Attack of the Clones, with Anakin Skywalker says to Padme, "From the moment I met you all those years ago, not a day has gone by when I haven't thought of you. And now that I'm with you again, I'm in agony. The closer I get to you, the worse it gets. The thought of not being with you, I can't breathe. I'm haunted by the kiss that you should have never given me. My heart is beating, hoping that kiss will not become a scar. You are in my soul, tormenting me. What can I do? I will do anything you ask. If you are suffering as much as I am, please tell me that is not just 100% George Lucas Academy Award-winning romance, modern day Shakespeare. Ladies and gentlemen, this is what we go to the movies for.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's beautiful. It's classic Lucas. It's right. It's almost as good as, say, I don't know, the Star Wars music that was featured throughout this escape. I mean, the music that they were playing, it was stolen straight from the Star Wars series. And Raj, you and I have sat through enough Battlefront load screens to know that Star Wars music. This shit was a complete ripoff. I mean, Big D points it out brilliantly that this entire movie is derivative.
But did you also pick up, they have the Han Solo punch sound? Like when Han Solo punches somebody in the face. And they also have the sound where anyone is thrown in Star Wars. I'm going to clip both those audio because I picked it out. I was like, did he just go get like his 8-track of sound effects and say, hey, just use these?
I think the best part of this episode, Big D, is now we have a Big D soundboard that we can go to because we got the giggle, we got the flying sound.
Yeah, you talk about similarities to other movies. Did anyone else see that entire ridiculous sled escape?
Yeah.
That was Temple of Doom.
Right, when they escape the plane, right?
When they jump out of the plane, when there's no pilots, and they use the raft to somehow miraculously land on the side of the mountain. Both equally preposterous. But this little, it looks like it's like the top of a chest. They go down the side of a mountain like 50 miles an hour. They do 2 or 3 50-foot jumps. They go through a glacier. The entire time, he's holding a newborn baby.
Yeah.
And to cap it all off with a kick in the balls to show that really they don't respect us, Madmartigan comes rolling down the hill inside of a snowball.
Yeah, the only thing more realistic than that sled scene was the sled scene in National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation with Chevy Chase. But the other thing that I have a problem with is they just give Willow this wand without any kind of fucking instructions.
Yeah, well, why don't you, let's say it was a movie set today. Would you give a child a Ferrari and say, hey, go outside and just teach yourself to drive?
Right.
We're lucky that he didn't he was screwing around with the animals that he was, turning Rizal back into, but he could have done some major damage. You don't give a damn kid a weapon like that. It's like giving a kid a gun.
But what about that Lucas, classic comedy scene of him with the wand and he, does a spell and he ends up in the tree. Wow. Oh, he's in the tree.
Okay, R2, that was close.
Giggle, giggle. With Sorsha as their temporary hostage, they escape to the castle of Tir Aslan, but discover its inhabitants have all been frozen by Madmartigan, and the castle is overrun by trolls. The castle is stormed by Cal's army. During the Cal's assault on the castle, Sorsha realizes she also loves Madmartigan and decides to join him and Willow in opposing her mother's army. Willow accidentally turns a troll into a massive fire-breathing 2-headed monster that turns the tide of the battle, and Eric arrives with his army to assist. However, Kyle captures Alora and returns to Nockmaar, where he reports Sorsha's betrayal to Bavmorda.
Was I the only one who thought this was the end of the movie?
Yes.
We got to this point. I was like, oh man, okay, we got the two-headed dragon. I didn't remember that he was created by mistake. All right, here it is. This is the end. Somehow it's going to come back. I look at the clock. We got like 35 more minutes to go.
Yeah, I wrote that in my notes. The only thing scarier than the hounds that killed the midwife was the pacing of this film and the length. Because I was just like you. I was like, fuck, 40 more minutes after this?
Yeah, I had messaged you guys thinking I was ready to start the movie or to start recording, and then I looked back at the movie and looked at the timeline and go, "Oh my god, there's still 40 minutes left of this thing." And the whole thing that blows my mind about the movie is the amount of time wasted. Again, with Roselle, they take the time from her to go from an opossum to a bird, and then she's a goat. And I don't know if it's supposed to be cute or mystifying or like what the hell the point is of it. But that entire thing, she could just be one animal and it's fine. And then she gets transferred. It makes no sense. It's a waste of time.
Again, that's classic Lucas comedy because, it doesn't matter what animal she is until she turns into the goat. And now all of a sudden she talks like a goat. She's like, Willow. And then she like butts like a troll or a soldier off of the bridge.
Take that.
Okay, you've got the CGI technology to create a two-headed dragon.
Yeah.
Why the fuck couldn't they make the goat talk? Instead, they obviously put some kind of food or some kind of grass in the goat's mouth. Yeah. So the whole time the goat's supposed to be talking, I know the goat's just chewing. And they're supposed to make it sync up to the lid. It's terrible.
That's another sound for a soundboard.
That's going to be amazing. So let's talk. I think we could devote a few minutes since they devoted like an hour to this dragon. So when the troll turns into the dragon thing, I think they really could have consulted some designers on this because to me it looked like a cross between like a snake, a baleen whale, and then that thing that happens when you pull back your dog's lips while they're sleeping, And it's just, and I remember because I actually got my girlfriend sent me is sitting next to me. She sends me this message on Facebook that says when Bae tells you how cute you look, and then just gives me that picture. It's like this overbite. I don't know if you haven't seen it. Even if you don't watch this movie, just look up the dragon from Willow. It's terrible.
We have a mutual friend by the name of Sasha. And did Sasha ever show you her ugly face?
Oh yeah.
It looks exactly like the Willow monster.
Oh my god,
it does. Terrible. No, she does. She loses her chin. Literally, it disappears into her neck, and then her front teeth go out. She knows this. She will display this. But Sasha, if you're out there, thank you for listening. But this is where the one part of the movie where I really wished they had ripped off Lord of the Ring and sprung for some troll. Good costumes, not these men in Walmart quality gorilla suits. They didn't even look remotely like any kind of troll creature I've grown up on or thought to believe that this was a troll.
So you didn't like Chaka looking for the time portal in Land of the Lost?
That's exactly what it looked like.
Yeah, it was terrible. It looked like a flying monkey from The Wizard of Oz without the wings.
No, yeah, they don't like wings. This isn't a dragon. There's no wings on that thing.
I'm starting to think it doesn't take much to be a general in this world because Kale comes into this castle and he's got about 20 guys. Now there's a two-headed giant dragon thing, and then they've also got the baby that they're looking for. And he literally yells out, "Destroy the beast," and then immediately says, "Find the baby." So you got like 20 guys. Of course they got their asses kicked because they were split in two directions trying to solve all these problems. To me, I'd say, okay, focus them on one direction, fuck the dragon, use it to your advantage, go after the baby.
Yeah, and I got to tell you, the stop motion here I thought was bad. When you think back to movies that used it, I think fairly successfully, Clash of the Titans always sticks in my mind from 81 with the Kraken. If I went back and watched it now, it'd be pretty bad, but I can't envision it's that much worse than this.
Oh, this is
the compositing was rough. It looked terrible. I don't know how the hell Madmartigan didn't get hit with one of those hundreds of arrows that they're shooting at the dragon. Yeah. But the only thing I did like that they did not fall into the typical two-headed or multi-headed dragon trope. In so many movies, you cut off one of the heads, the other dragon heads keep going, and the dragon keeps flying. Here, you blow the one head up, and the beast dies. I did appreciate that.
Yeah, it makes sense. I was proud of that, too. I was relieved, mainly because I just wanted the movie to end, so it sped things up.
Well, did you also love the comedy scene of Madmartigan dressing up in armor that he finds, and then he runs out, because he's afraid of the dragon, and then he's with all the opposing team, and then they look at each other and like, whoa, I'm not part of your team, and then he runs away. Like again, that's classic Lucas comedy, guys.
I did appreciate the reactions when everyone was like, what? Like, and then he does, like, he kind of did, like, just stood there with his jaw, dropped. But yeah, when he walks over there, it was very Pee-wee's Big Adventure.
Yeah. So Ike's army, Willow, and the others arrive at Nockmar to lay siege, but Bavmorda turns the soldiers into pigs. Instructed by Raziel, Willow protects himself with a spell and avoids transformation. He succeeds in turning Raziel into a human again, and she restores the others to their original forms. Willow's group tricks their way into the castle and start a battle. Eric is killed by Kyle, who is in turn slain by Madmartigan after a lengthy sword duel. Sorsha leads Willow and Raziel to the ritual chamber where they interrupt Alora's sacrifice. Bavmorda and Raziel have a magical duel, during the course of which Raziel is incapacitated. Willow uses his disappearing pig trick that he had performed as a conjurer to fool Bavmorda into thinking that Alora was sent out of her reach. Lunging at Willow, Bavmorda accidentally triggers the ritual's final part to send Alora's soul into oblivion and banishes her own soul instead. Willow is rewarded with a magic book to aid him in becoming a sorcerer, and Sorsha and Madmartigan remain in Tir Aslan to raise Alora together. Willow returns home to a hero's welcome and is happily reunited with his family.
And ladies, if you ever have the luck to meet Roger out at a bar, he'll be sure to show you his famous disappearing pig trick. He does it all the time. But talking about stupid tricks here, they pull the old Red Dawn pit with a tarp over it. How the fuck did all the guards on the top of that castle of the gate or whatever it was in Helm's Deep, how did they not see this army digging these giant pits and hiding inside?
I got 2 words for you. General Kale. He probably told him, hey guys, no problem, take the night off, take a nap, no big deal.
They're not going to do anything.
Look at this scary mask I got, guys. Doesn't it maybe look scary?
I mean, it looks like a real skull, right? There's so much wrong militarily with this thing, and Big D, I'm sure you could speak to this, but one of the things that bothered me is that in every siege scene, you got to have some artillery pieces, right? In this final battle, all the artillery pieces seem to be calibrated to shoot a target that's 10 feet away. Nobody knows how to use a shield, and people are just getting killed by projectiles left and right.
No. Why are you opening the gate? You have the baby inside the castle. A smaller military force is outside your gate without the siege capability to get in. Why the fuck are you opening the gate? Oh, they're all alone. Let's go get them. It's ridiculous.
Now, if all of this sounds exciting, that there's a giant battle happening at a castle, you would be sorely mistaken. The pacing of this movie, the fact that Ron Howard does not know how to direct an action movie at this point in his career is unfounded. I mean, I guess it makes total sense that George Lucas would hire a guy who has no action directing experience whatsoever.
Well, you talk about exciting scenes. They had the possibility of a really exciting scene. So the spell is cast that turns everybody into pigs. It's horrific. It looks painful.
Yeah,
Madmartigan's got the tusk coming out. I thought they were turning into grammarian guards.
Yeah, it's Werewolf in London. That looked good. That was some Stan Winston shit.
Yeah. So they turn into now, instead of grammarian guards, luckily, regular sized pigs, and they're running around. To me, the way I think, when they turn back into people, you've now got 400 naked soldiers just searching the battlefield for their matching clothes. Why didn't we get to see that?
I think that we should balance this out here, though. Let's talk about a couple things that worked all right with this. One of them we mentioned is the fact that there is some action to be had here, that it falls short of the mark, but it's not terrible. It's not unwatchable. What I was really impressed with was actually, I complained about it earlier, but Rozelle's shape-shifting was actually pretty impressive in the scene where she goes through multiple things. Not the acting, not the way it fit into the story, but just the fact that I was impressed that it seemed like, I remember watching the Michael Jackson black or white video.
I was going to say, it set the stage
and being
for that.
really... Yeah, but this was like way before that, right? It was pretty impressive. It goes from like ostrich to turtle to tiger. Nice work, guys.
I don't know. I think Black or White was like 2 years later. I think Black or White came out like in 1990, right?
Gene's on it. This was the first time they'd used that effect.
I'm just saying, like they're close by, but this set the stage. This was like the testing ground for the effects of that movie.
So another chicken and the egg sort of thing, though, is let's talk about again, all these references to Lord of the Rings. That battle between Raziel and Bavmorda was on screen before the battle between Gandalf and Saruman, right? Like it came years before that. But Lord of the Rings, the book, came out before this movie. So I don't know who's robbed whom, but I mean, you've got all the elements of you're in the tower, the face-off between the two sorcerers, and then we get to the wand slipping.
Do you want to talk about wand slipping and stealing scenes? Again, Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, when the Sheriff of Nottingham is trying to give birth to the woman, and then in comes Morgan Freeman to kill the sorceress, to kill the crazy wizard witch lady. That was stolen from the movie Willow.
Yeah, to me, and I don't want to sound misogynist, but this battle at the end, it didn't really captivate me because it just seemed like two old ladies beating each other with their shopping bags. I kept expecting for Raziel to tell me what it was like on the Titanic, and if it was really the ship of dreams. But I just kept waiting for her to give those lines. I know it's a different actress, but in every time we see a sorcerer, magician, some kind of witch having a fight, there's inevitably a point where one of them loses their wand. So I'm going to come out with a Shat on TV product here for every wizard and sorcerer. I want to come out with a wrist strap that you stick to your wand, very much like the Wii, that stops you from throwing the controller at your TV. If they had this, half the fights would have ended much earlier.
Yeah, I'm going to go a step further. And in addition to that, I want to offer a bonus product. It's a shield with a little buzzer on top of it. And anytime you bring it down below your head level, it's going to buzz. So remember to bring your shield back up so you're not hit by mysterious artillery inside the castle walls.
I want to be one of the first people to buy your wand product and put it on my remote control so I don't throw it at the television every time we have to watch this fucking movie again.
I just want to talk about the end. Did you feel like the way they did away with the big bad was a cop-out? Like they couldn't come up with anything original? They spill the blood or whatever the sacrificial fluid was, mixed with a lightning bolt, and somehow she vaporizes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really would have liked it to have been something like a Harry Potter thing where, she attempted to kill Allura, and in doing so, it would kill her. That would be like the prophecy is fulfilled, right?
Yeah.
In that she brought it upon herself by bringing the baby there. If she would have just stayed away from it, she would have been okay.
Yeah, and then Allura maybe has a little bit of touch of the mad sorceress inside of her, and that's who Willow has to fight at the very end of this trilogy, is the very person that he tried to save in the fucking beginning. Guys.
I love it. Get some fanfic.
Hire us.
Yeah, so that concludes the movie. I don't think that, unless there's anything else you want to talk about it, I think it's time for us breaking out the Shat meter. I think we need some Shat meter music.
Like the toilet flushing? Is that what you want?
Yeah, do a little toilet flush. I usually have something creative to show our to give you the scale meter, but this movie just literally sucked the creative juices out of me. I felt so terrible after watching this movie. I felt like I was turning into a pig. But anyway, 0 wipes is a great movie. 5 wipes is a terrible movie. Big D, how many wipes would you give this movie?
God, I have to give it the worst we can do. It's a 5 wipe. And the reason I'm doing that is not that Willow is bad, but I'm giving it that because it failed despite all of the things it had going for it. It had George Lucas. You had an accomplished cast. You had a full support of a major Hollywood studio behind it, marketing it. And the fact that it turned out just a mess, to me, it has to be a 5. They had everything to make this a fantastic movie, and they failed.
Gene, how many wipes do you give this movie?
I'm going to go with 4 wipes plus a cutesy little baby wipe that's going to appear several times throughout the movie. It was long, very, very long. It was stupid, very, very stupid. But it had Val Kilmer and it had swords, and for that, I'll give it half a wipe off.
All right, so I don't think we've ever done this. We've never gone off the Shat meter on the other side, right? We've never gone 6 wipes. If I could give 6 wipes, I would. Instead, I'm going to give it 5 wipes with those flushable wipes that clog your toilet, the ones that you have to call in the plumbers to come in and root that shit out, because that's how bad this movie is. Gene, how much does that give us? 4.83 repeated. Big D, where does that sit in the pantheon of Shat movies?
This sits right at the bottom of the septic tank. It's right down there with all the rocks and the paper.
This log does not float.
No, this log, you've been eating a lot of fiber. The sucker's sinking right to the bottom. This is now taken the rightful place at the bottom of the Shat the movie scale with a 4.8.
What's right above it? I'm sorry.
Highlander is a 4.5, and I would rather watch Highlander back to back than watch Willow again right now.
Yeah, I feel like we owe the Kurgan an apology because he was a wonderful villain compared to the shit we saw in this movie. To the entire cast of the Highlander, we apologize from the bottom of our hearts.
You talk about the pedigree of George Lucas. What are good George Lucas movies, in your opinion, Big D?
Well, he can only really take credit for the first Star Wars.
Which first Star Wars?
No, I think New Hope.
New Hope.
Okay, so you think that's a good movie?
It's debatable whether he just kind of fell into it by the limitations that were placed upon him, and that once he was left to his own devices and had a budget and had people around him, that he just showed his incompetence. So I don't know. I got to think.
I was going to say, yeah, I think Lucas has succeeded despite himself. Because if you look at other Lucas's movies, right, even Star Wars was a disaster the first time it was screened. And in fact, I think it won an editing award because it was so heavily edited from the first cut and put together. It actually made a great movie. Lawrence Kasdan was largely responsible for Empire Strikes Back, which is the best Star Wars movie. All the other ones are just kind of fillers when you think about it. He had nothing to do with any of the new Star Wars. And you could say Indiana Jones was nothing but a product of Steven Spielberg versus George Lucas. So I think George Lucas is kind of a hack, but he got really rich off of toys, merchandising, and industrial lights and magic.
I have no argument against that. I think you're absolutely on point.
All right. Well, that concludes this week's episode. Big D, what's on the Shat schedule for next week?
Next week, it is the Best of James Bond. And I guess people like the video game from the old Super NES, GoldenEye, because that hands down 51%.
Yeah.
View to a Kill was second. Then we had For Your Eyes Only and Living Daylights coming in last.
I'm gonna say I'm excited for GoldenEye. I enjoy Pierce Brosnan.
He is
Bond.
Easily my least favorite Bond. I'm pissed,
No,
you guys. I'm pissed.
You're crazy. You're out there. Well, anyway, this concludes this week's episode of Shat the Movies. Be sure to follow us on social media and share with a friend. We're everywhere, including Twitter, Snapchat, and Instagram. We're also on Facebook. Just search for Shat the Movies Podcast. Our website is shatthemovies.com. You can vote for all of our movie choices weeks in advance. Just navigate to the website and click on vote. Our email address, if you've got some movie selection choices, if you've got a theme for 80s and 90s movies, pick 4 of them, send them to hosts@shatthemovies.com. We're everywhere fine podcasts can be found, including iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, and YouTube. Be sure to subscribe, and if you stop by any of those places, be sure to leave a 5-star review. That helps the podcast grow. You can also check out our sister podcast, Shat on TV, where we review television series such as Westworld, Taboo, Game of Thrones, and we're in mid-season, or we just started our season of American Gods on Starz, Amazon Prime, and the Starz app. You can find all the information on where to watch and how to download on our website, shatontv.com. Is there anything else we want to announce before we shut down and get ready for GoldenEye? All right. Well, on behalf of my co-hosts, Big D and Gene Lyons, I'm Roger Roper. Be sure to join us next Wednesday for GoldenEye. Thank you for listening. Take care. Good night and good luck.
Terrorists were overzealous, but it was sweet when they killed Ellis.